Hello, everybody. Second time today for anybody that's been watching live. Another My Music with me, Graham Cove. In a minute, I'll be speaking to Dalia, who's coming all the way from London. Which part of London is it?
Just like central London.
Right in the middle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
next to Liverpool Street. I'm like pretty.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
The amount of time I've spent there.
yeah,
It's a busy old part of London, isn't it?
yeah. Thank you for having me.
No, no, it's an absolute pleasure. Anyway, we'll be finding out more about Dalia and her music in a moment. But let's first have this quick video from Analog Trash.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
Hello, everybody, and I'm going to be speaking, as I said, to Dalia today. Dalia, this morning I got to interview someone from my childhood in terms of music. Wonderful Simon Rowbottom, or Sice as he's known, from the Boo Radleys. Do you have you ever heard of the Boo Radleys?
No, I don't think so.
You've never heard of the Boo Radleys. There you
No.
are. You might have heard of their big hit, Wake Up. You know the one that goes, Wake up, it's a beautiful morning. Do you know that one?
Maybe. I think
Maybe,
maybe.
slightly.
I'm not sure.
There you go. I don't do it justice. He would have done it justice, you see.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
massive hit, okay, in the 90s. And you know, at one point, that album was on constant rotation around the country with all of my friends, etc., along with Blur and along with the Charlatans as well. Going back to when you were a young girl, I mean, you're still a young girl, but you know, go back to when you were young. What was kind of on rotation for you? What was the music that first really excited you?
I remember being very. I used to watch like MTV on my TV like after school, and it'd always be like Rihanna. She was very big back when I was very
With her
young.
umbrella.
Yeah, exactly. Her best songs I feel like are the earliest. When I was youngest, I would just listen to her CDs on repeat. And like just like Lady Gaga was always on there, Katy Perry, but I wouldn't say these were like my main inspirations. It's just what I was constantly listening to at the time.
Yeah, but the imagery of all of those artists
Yeah.
was really strong, and I get, in a sense, that was the first period where, I mean, that there'd always been in the sort of the 70s onwards, whatever, you'd had like very strong female voices in music, but that from a sort of
Hmm.
strong female perspective in terms of just the whole look and what they were saying within their music,
Hmm.
and how their look was talking about women's strength
Hmm.
was very, very different from anything we'd seen before. So was that something that kind of really reflected onto you?
I think I remember Lady Gaga was very unconventional at the time. My dad would have a lot of comments about her music.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember admiring that about her. Like I did admire how uncomfortable she made some people. I thought that was just like I've always admired that about artists, like when they trigger someone, because I feel like that's it means it's working, and I feel like they're doing something right.
Yeah.
So even though my dad had his comments and like even my mom as well, because I feel like for them it was probably way more like shocking to see that kind of behavior at the
And
time.
yet your parents would have grown up possibly with the likes of Bowie, who would,
Yeah, yeah,
who
yeah,
clearly shocked at the time.
yeah,
That the whole things like Ziggy Stardust, and then the thing like Duke with the, you know, almost like the Nazi salute and whatever, were
Mhm.
designed
Mhm.
to shock.
Mhm.
So it's quite interesting. Have you had any conversations with your parents since about like, yeah, but actually you grew up with this music and you like that, and actually that would have been shocking. Yeah. Do you talk more about that kind of
I
thing
think I
with your
have
parents now?
had a few conversations. Also, because like I grew up with Miley Cyrus, um,
Right.
and she when she left Disney Channel and
Started
rebelled,
swinging on balls,
yeah,
twerking.
my dad also had a lot of comments about that, and I've had like a conversation like recently with him, um, kind of talking about him, like about it with him, like how um his view, like how he used to view it, because now his view has changed, and he actually sympathizes and empathizes with her a lot because she was criticized very strongly at a very young age. I think she was like in her early 20s, which is the age that I am at now. And I think he empathizes much more. I think he's also like evolved like with his views and stuff. I think it was more shocking at the time, but I think seeing me as well being a young artist and thinking if I was criticized that way, he would obviously have something to say about that. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
I think it's difficult as a parent. I think
yeah,
it's really
exactly.
difficult as a parent. You know, you want to protect your children. You want to make sure that your children aren't, you know, entering into a scenario or entering into the fray where they may get abuse, or they may get knocked down, or whatever, for the way that you dress or the way that you put yourself out there, or any of those things. But then it's about, and this is the difficult thing as a parent to accept, is that you know your children have their own strength,
Hmm.
and it's about accepting that, you know, actually maybe they know exactly what they're doing and they know exactly where their boundaries are, and actually, you know, they can cope with for themselves, you know.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
I completely agree with that. I think, especially as an art like a young woman in London, um, I think my parents were a bit wary about you know being independent and growing up in this country, like so far away from them as well. And being an artist, like it's a struggle sometimes, but I think they do allow me to have my space to be like free creatively and do whatever I feel is right for me, I think.
yeah, tell us where you're originally from.
I'm from Spain, so I grew up in Spain, but my mom is German and my dad's Dutch. So I
Now
did,
that's an eclectic mix, isn't it? So you grew up in
yeah.
Spain,
Hmm.
German and Dutch.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, my mom's actually half French, half German. Um, yeah. So I did grow up with a lot of culture in my home.
Now I was going to say, and did any of that culture grab you in terms of music, or is it something that's permeated in terms of sounds, etc.? Because that's a lot of different cultures in there all coming together. But is there anything from the sort of tradition of any of those particular countries that's come together in terms of the way that you want sounds to be?
I wouldn't necessarily say so because I was more in tune with the Spanish culture than I was with any of the other cultures. Yeah, I think I mostly just was like I spoke German and I spoke French with my mom, but nothing further than that. Like I wouldn't listen to German music or French music. So I don't think it has in like it's seeped into my songwriting at all, really. I think Spanish has because I do write in Spanish. Um, I've never really considered writing in German or French just because it's not something that it, it doesn't come out of me, really. I don't feel the need. Um,
But it'd be useful one day when you tour,
yeah, yeah,
right?
definitely.
You
I
could
think,
you'd be able to converse with the
yeah, I think,
audience.
yeah, exactly. Like, I think obviously there's so many positives about it, but I don't think I have used it in my creative like life. If that
Not
makes
yet. There's always time, you know.
Yeah, there's always time. Yeah.
There's always time. So you said that you were hearing those strong women and you were watching MTV, but they weren't inspirations. Who was an inspiration?
Um, it's obviously changed throughout my life, but I did start with Adele. Adele used to be one of the first artists who really inspired me with her songwriting. I think um, I really admired the depth of her songwriting and the way her emotions, like you could really hear her emotions when she was singing. I've always enjoyed like slower songs and sadder songs and upbeat songs. So I think when Adele started releasing, and Demi Lovato at the time was big inspiration because of Disney Channel as well. But then obviously that started changing. Right now, for example, my inspirations are like Bon Iver, Phoebe Bridgers, Gracie Abrams, Ryx. So it's like it's completely changed, but obviously that has had an influence in me throughout my
Yeah,
music. Yeah.
those artists that you've just mentioned,
Hmm.
who are having a really great time at the moment, especially Phoebe Bridgers can't really touch anything without it being gold at the moment. You know,
Hmm.
I think Boy Juniors have got a new EP out this week.
Hmm.
You know, what is it about those artists that really does it for you?
Um, so for me, I always say that I like any song that makes me feel something or that touches me. Like, um, yeah, that just makes me feel something. And these artists that I just mentioned are, for me, the artists that never miss. Like every song that they release, like I always feel a connection to, and I really look up to and admire as an artist. I am a very like lyrical person. I love lyrics. I love unique lyrics, raw lyrics, and Ryx, whenever Phoebe Bridgers, I really admire them as songwriters specifically, just because of how real and authentic their lyricism is, and how chaotic and dark and um,
And they also, like you, carry a lot of emotion in their voice.
yeah.
Did that come? Did that come naturally to you, or did you,
I
need
think
to develop into that voice?
I think I've always used singing as a release of emotion. So I think it has come naturally to me. I think when I was younger, my mom would always say to me like she can hear the emotion when I sing, and I think I wasn't as conscious about it at the time, so I didn't really use it consciously. But that makes sense. But now I do use it as an advantage and as a strength. I know how to use it, um, but it does come naturally to me. Yeah, I can't help just feeling everything when I sing. Um,
Yeah. Are
yeah.
you? Interesting question for you as a singer, which is,
Mhm.
when you're not performing it, for social media or anything else like that. Are you an eyes shut person or an eyes open person when you sing?
I like to close my eyes.
Yeah.
Um, I try not to when I perform as much
It's
because
hard though, isn't it?
it is very hard.
Yeah.
But it's also important to connect to the audience, and I feel like I might be shutting the audience out if I close my eyes, and I really don't want the audience to feel like that. So I in my comfort zone, I do close my eyes, just because that's how I just feel it the most, feel the lyrics the most. But I try not to as much.
Yeah. You like to inhabit a song.
Yeah.
Is it difficult sometimes? Do you find, are there circumstances where you find yourself struggling to then inhabit the song when you're performing it again, or you know?
Um, if I when I sing songs that I've written a long time ago, um, I sometimes struggle to identify myself with my past self. Um, So I really have to get in that mentality again. But it's also that it has consequences what I do, because a lot of the things that I sing about are kind of things that I've had to get through and like let go of. So I'm sometimes afraid to kind of get in that mentality again and attach myself with those emotions again. So I try to create a balance of like knowing to just be able to create this persona and identify myself with it throughout the song, if that makes sense, but then let go once I've sang it, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
no, absolutely. How much do you draw from people responding to your music as well? I mean, you're out there on social media. You've got a very strong look on social media. You've got people responding to you.
Hmm.
Are you getting stories from people about, this reminds me of exactly what you're going through there. This is something that I felt once, etc. Are you getting those kind of responses back, and how does that feel to you?
As a songwriter, that's personally the most like rewarding feeling. Because I mean, I started writing when I was like 6 years old, and um, it's always just been something from as like a therapeutic outlet for me. Um, and I never really it's something that I dreamt of. Like it sounds cliche, but like people connecting to things I write, it's always something that I've strived for, and the fact that it's happening now, and I am getting people reaching out to me, um, just explaining how it's resonated with them and how they connect. It's like the most rewarding feeling, and I feel the most connected to that person, even though I don't know them at all necessarily. Sometimes I feel like I do in a way, and I think it's a very unique feeling as well. Yeah, it's like very rewarding. Yeah.
Excuse me, 2 minutes, because someone's knocking at the
Oh
door.
yeah, no worries at all.
Hello, I'm online. I'm busy. Thank you.
No
Oh,
worries at all.
bless. Isn't that lovely? I've got a studio. It's got a sign on the door that says I'm live. There we go. But clearly,
No worries at all.
somebody can't read. Apologies for that,
No
folks.
worries.
In terms of your music, how do you continue to challenge yourself in terms of your writing?
Um, in terms of my writing, um, I try to. I mean, I always write out of experience. So for me, the most challenging is to write when I don't necessarily need to, if that makes sense. Because I write when I feel like I need to release an emotion, but obviously as an artist, and if you want to live of being a songwriter, you have to make it a habit. You have to write whenever you're asked to or whenever you have to, not when you want to necessarily. So I try to write when I'm not feeling necessarily inspired, or um, when I
I
don't.
totally get that.
Yeah.
I've talked about it on this show before. I mean, I think as a creative within any space, I mean, I write material for people day in, day out. You've
Hmm.
got to you've got to come up to the plate and do it
Hmm.
on a daily basis. It doesn't always mean it's good.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think you have to learn to kind of not beat yourself up about that as well, which is okay. I did this today, and it actually that didn't work, or
Hmm.
that this wasn't particularly great what I did, but the consistency of doing it is important as well. Is because to me it's like flexing a muscle.
Hmm.
If you keep it flexed, then you learn something out of it, and even if it's just a little thing that comes out of it, and you go actually later on you go, oh, actually I could revisit that and I could actually make that a lot stronger because
Hmm.
there was something really good in that.
Hmm.
Then that's great. you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah,
But
I
you,
completely agree. I think it's something you have to train. It's like an instrument, really, like your vocals. And I do kind of struggle with that because I am a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to my writing. Yeah, I do want, I don't like when I know that I'm writing something that's not good, or my best sometimes. So I'm trying to just become more comfortable with writing something that's not necessarily for anyone else or that it has to be good. It's just a song and it's just practice and it doesn't have to be the best thing I've ever written.
no, I think it's true. I heard Ed Sheeran talking about it earlier this week. He was in a school in America, and he was talking about. He was asked that kind of question, and he was talking about it in the analogy of a tap, and he said it's kind of like a tap. You turn it on, and this, to begin with, like just dirty water keeps coming out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is so true.
and then eventually you get the flow, and all this great stuff keeps coming out, and then you just have to sit in that flow and let
Hmm.
that happen. But
Hmm.
it's, you know, every
Yeah.
time you turn the tap off and then turn it back on again, that dirty stuff comes out to begin
Mhm.
with. That happens to any creative, I think. You know,
I agree. Yeah.
do you find, how do you find the whole process once you've given birth to a song and you're happy with it, and the perfectionist side of you is, that's
Hmm.
it, we're happy now. How do you find that bit from there to the release of that into the world, and getting it out there and doing all of the social and everything? Does that come naturally to you, or have you had to work hard on that as well in terms of the way
Um,
that you deal with that mentally? Because it's hard. That's hard again.
hmm. I think the whole promotional side is a whole different world. Like promoting it and understanding how you want people to um, consume it and understand it and finding your audience is, I think, at the very start is the hardest part. Like when you're first releasing, and it's something I've had to learn this past year because I've just started releasing um, these past couple of months. So I think it's something that I had to think of, um, just sit down and really strategize the releases and how I'm going to market them and promote them and essentially like create a world for each song and visuals for each song and like colors and all these things, of how you want people to relate to it and how you want it to come across. So I think that's a whole different world. But I think once you start doing it and once you start thinking like that, it becomes just natural. Like right now, when I write songs, I already have the visuals. I already know how I'm gonna market it, how I want people to identify with it. Like it just becomes like routine. Um,
Yeah. Do you bring anyone else into that creative process, or is it purely you?
it's purely me. I think,
That's a
yeah,
lot. That's a lot to take on.
yeah, it is a lot. I've just never really, I don't know. I think I've never really asked, it's because I always feel like how is anyone else gonna know my song better than I do? If that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I've never really.
Perhaps they wouldn't, but perhaps they could create something. My take on it, because I
Hmm.
do I do work with some musicians. My take
Hmm.
on it is you'll never understand it like the artist,
Hmm.
but perhaps that person can see it with another pair of eyes,
That is very
like other people out there can,
true. Hmm.
and therefore maybe they can bring something creative to that process
Hmm.
that you wouldn't have seen, and you might enjoy that creative process as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying because in terms of music videos, I have worked with a girl who I met at uni, and she's a film director, and she's been helping me with my music videos, and we both sat down just like um, coming up with ideas for the music video and just like shooting ideas at each other and bouncing off each other, and in that regard, like I have appreciated that new perspective of like ideas that I wouldn't have come up with, but that totally resonate with me and completely fit the song. So I do think you're right. It's important to have a new, like a different perspective to yours, just because you never, even like with producing music, I feel like working with different producers, like you learn so much and so many new perspectives that you wouldn't have come up with, but that really add to the song and that really bring the song to life. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? So you are right. Yeah.
yeah. Who is your audience now? Now that you've started putting stuff out there and you've done the work and you've visualized and you've you know you've put your message out. Who are you finding that your audience are?
I mean, mostly my friends. Um,
Well,
but
this is part of the process of doing things like this, isn't it? Is
yeah,
to spread it. But
yeah.
yeah,
Um, I think people who, um, mostly people who feel things deeply, because I think my songs can be very intense sometimes. So I think people who appreciate um, deep thoughts and feelings and intensity and who feel sadness comfortably and like to listen to songs that enhance that feeling sometimes just to feel better or to as a cathartic experience. Yeah, I, I think that's my audience. I mean, I don't want to say like sad people because that sounds weird, but yeah, I mean, everyone can be sad, obviously, but I think there's people who are comfortable with that emotion and seek things that make them feel that way sometimes.
yeah. Are you finding you obviously like certain artists yourself? Are you finding that your music is something that is attractive to the fans of the people that you like? Because that's always a good thing in a way, because it gives the opportunity for maybe somewhere down the line you to potentially be the support act or get into that circle and actually end up supporting people that you look up to. I mean, are you finding that?
Um, I think
Calling all Boy Genius fans, you need to start listening to Dalia so that, sometime next year she's supporting Boy Genius.
I mean, that would be a dream, obviously.
Well, we manifest these things,
Yeah,
and then they
I,
happen.
I think so too. I think because the thing I most admire in artists are lyrics. That is the thing I most focus on as a songwriter, is to write things that haven't been said in that way yet, and that make people uncomfortable. That is my aim as an artist. So I do think I attract those fans. I mean, I would like to think so. That would be an honor. Um, yeah, because I do get a lot of fans from like Gracie Abrams, for example, or Phoebe Bridgers, who tell me like, "Oh my God, like I love um, your inspirations and where they come from because I get inspired by that artist as well, and I can totally hear it in your music and things like that." I think the songs that I've released so far, because I've written them a few years ago, I used to have different inspirations back then, so I don't necessarily think those artists show creatively in those.
Yeah, but it's going to come.
Oh yeah, yeah. The songs that are coming out are definitely inspired by Ryek's Phoebe Bridgers, one of her Montel Fish. He's more of a
Yeah, yeah.
alternative um, artist. Yeah.
That's fantastic. If you could ask one of those people that's inspired you for a piece of advice on anything, what would you ask?
Ooh, on anything. Um, my gosh, that is a hard question. Um, I have no idea.
It could be anything. It could be on sort of something to do with writing music, producing music, or so it could be some little tip, if you like, or whatever, or it could just be in terms of how to navigate the business. What would you want to know?
I think I'd like to know. Um, I don't know. I think I would just be interested to know, not necessarily advice, really. Um, I think I would just like to know where, like, how,
Where their ideas come from?
yeah, like how they get their inspiration and creativity to write the way they do. Um, yeah, because it's their lyricism and their music is very um, distinctive. So I would like to know how they can come, like how it comes up and what their process is. I feel
Yeah,
like, yeah.
I always love talking to artists where, especially if they've got songs where they create real amazing imagery with their words,
Hmm.
especially if it's like really simple words in a way, but
Yeah.
those words are, create such a strong visual image,
Hmm.
and you think, my goodness, you've managed to make me think about visually about
Hmm.
something without using many words. I always think that's such a clever craft. A-
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
you almost want to know all the time, you want to know, what were you looking at when you
Yeah.
came up with those words?
Hmm.
you
Yeah. I
know?
would like to know their inspirations and yeah, how they come up with those ideas because I do admire their like clever wordplay. Um, I think that's something that I admire most in their lyricism, like just how simple but clever it is at the same time, and it just
Yeah.
makes me wish that I had written it. Um, yeah, that's the thing I most admire about this type of artist.
Well, you have written some songs yourself, and you've got a tremendous talent.
Well,
Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today because I, discovered you on the internet,
thank you so much.
and wanted to get you on to talk about your music. What's 2024 going to look like for you? Do you believe? What's the ambition as we go into 2024? What are the things that are on your list of this is what I want to achieve next year?
I want to. I'm currently performing quite often with my band in London, and I've played a couple of festivals, like very low key festivals. So I think um, playing for bigger festivals would be an honor. Bigger venues, um, bigger.
We have to get you down this neck of the woods for a festival next year.
Hmm. I
You
mean, that
know,
would be
I mean,
amazing.
we've got a little festival just down the road from us here called Glastonbury. Yeah, you might have heard of it.
Of
Yeah,
course, yeah,
yeah, that might be worth looking at.
yeah. I mean, that would be obviously an honor. Playing for Sofa Sounds, that's also on my bucket list. BBC introducing would be also on my bucket list. Um, just getting out there and performing for bigger audiences and working with people that I admire someday would obviously is obviously a dream. And just releasing more music. I'm currently releasing my first EP, but I'm already recording my second EP, and I'm going to start releasing that at the beginning of next year. So that's also going to be something that I'm going to be doing, promoting that EP, and you know, just yeah, getting more stuff out there.
Cool. Well, we'd love to see. In all honesty, we'd love to see you if you could ever make it down to the southwest of England. We'd love to get you down this way as well.
Mhm.
If anyone's listening, as usual, from Bristol or Exeter promoters, another artist to
That
put
would be
onto your
amazing.
list. That would be marvelous. If there are artists watching this, because we've gathered together a lot of friends now from all across the globe. If there's artists listening in other areas other than London, and you check out Dalia's music after this and think, yeah, actually, I could do a gig with her, and that we could work together. in a different part of the country, do get in touch.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
we try and make things happen
Mm-hmm.
on this show because that's the way we roll.
That's amazing.
You know, and you know, the more I can try and bring artists together of a certain level and, you know, get them to help each other, I think that's marvelous. For anybody that hasn't checked out your music before, fools that they are, where's the best place for them to go? Where would you like? You've got a website, so where would you like them to go?
I mean, my website is a great place to start because I think that's where I have most of my information in one place. It's just daliamusic.com, and I have my music up there, all my social media links. I have my bio if you want to just know a bit about myself. I have blogs about each song that I've written, and I have a bit of merch coming soon as well. Gonna be up there.
The old merch.
Yeah. But yeah, Spotify is obviously the biggest platform for music where you can check it out because it's up there. And obviously,
It is. But folks, remember, if you're going to listen to the music on Spotify, please do pre-save when the artist lets you know. Right? So important.
Yeah.
And don't just listen to it. Follow the artist and also add it to a playlist, which is what we will be doing right now, Dalia.
Amazing.
Okay, so finally, after 4 years nearly, 3.5 years of doing this, and this is episode 301, would you believe, of My Music, we have finally created the My Music podcast playlist, and you will be added to that as soon as we get off air.
Oh, thank you.
What are we adding?
I would say my most previous single, which is called 1111.
That is what we should be adding.
Yeah.
You know, you can feel free to let us know, and we'll update it later on when you've got new music out as well. But please, folks, add some Dalia to your playlist this week as well. You know, because the more that happens, believe it or not, it is good for the artist.
Yeah.
You know?
And to follow artists on Spotify is also great.
It's massive. It's the same for podcasts, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and we're asking, what we're doing as well, Dalia, is we're asking all of the musicians who are on that playlist to try and share it as well. And actually, it's getting quite a lot of likes at the moment on Spotify, which is good, because then we help everyone together.
Of course, I'll be doing that.
Isn't that clever, right? You've been fantastic. Thanks for talking to me today. I wish you all the best with your career. By the way, I'll send you my address. Do think about sending something in for the board. These are all wonderful people that have been on the show over time. We've got badges. We've even got tea towel.
I love it.
Isn't it marvellous what people produce as merch these days?
I love it.
Little bits and pieces. But you know, let's get you up there. Let's help promote you, please. Folks, if you've enjoyed this interview with Dalia today, please share it with your friends and let them know so that they can share in the wonderful music as well. If you haven't enjoyed it, there's the door. You heard someone knocking at it earlier. They've gone out. You can go out as well. But before you do that, please do share this with one of your friends who does actually like music.
Yeah.
All right? That would be marvellous. Until next time, and do keep in touch. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
And you. Pleasure. Bye for now.